Hello, good morning, America, and good evening, Slovenia. My name is Ana Maria, and I would like to welcome you all to the fifth webinar of Entrepreneurship in New Reality project. In the beginning, please let me know if you can hear me well and see me well so that we can proceed.
I can hear and see you well.
Okay, just a second. Okay. Let's hope this will work now. So, first of all, I would like to thank to all our guest speakers. We have four amazing ladies here today with us who are going to share their views on an interesting topic, women in STEM. Of course, our moderator, and of course, thank you all for joining us here today to listen to this topic. Before we start, we have some of participants here who have not been with us in the previous webinars. So just shortly to present you what Entrepreneurship in New Reality project is actually about. So we have altogether a series of 10 webinars that are featuring actual topics coming from entrepreneurship innovation to the women in STEM economic reforms and so on to cover the perspectives of the new reality that we are all facing today. We have brought together more than 30 guest speakers coming both from the United States and from Slovenia to share their experience, their professional know-how and ideas so that we can all connect through both sides of the ocean. The ENR project, as we call it shortly, was created by Edita Krajnović, Faculty of Entrepreneurship, who is a modern business center, and we have been educating entrepreneurs for more than 30 years now. And of course, I need to give my thanks, of course, to the United States Embassy here in Ljubljana, who is a supporter of this program, and of course to all our national and international partners, as this program would not be possible without their trust and support. So today, this is already our fifth webinar, and we're going to cover the topic of women in STEM, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a great panel, and I hope that all of you will gather some new knowledge, new ideas, and that you'll be able to grow both as entrepreneurs and of course as individuals. And before I give this floor to our moderator for today, I would of course encourage you to ask questions via chat or of course via microphone if you would like also. And please do so from the beginning on so that the moderator can of course include the questions in the Q&A session later in the panel. And now it is time to introduce today's moderator. Tjaša Sobočan is joining us from CEED Slovenia, where she works as program manager. And CEED Slovenia is an organization that is actively supporting and promoting Slovenian entrepreneurs. And Tjaša is, of course, also well connected with United States, as she is a fellow of World Chicago the Professional Fellowship and also the IVLP program. So Tjaša, you are welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you, Ana Maria and Edita College team for hosting these amazing webinars. I'm very excited for today's topic, from idea to global success stories, with a special focus on women in STEM and women entrepreneurs, where we explore the educational, career, and entrepreneurial opportunities with our distinguished panel of female innovation leaders from US and Slovenia. So today we are sharing experiences and best practices with the goal to seek opportunities and explore the potential of including more women in STEM and also in the business world. So we will address what is working, already showing some positive results, and what can be done better or improved during education and career development. As we know, gender diversity sparks innovation and creativity, which drive better results of teams within academia and of course in businesses. So without further ado, I would like to present our panel of experts, starting with Kristi Dula, who leads the Office of Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Technology at DCEO, that is Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, where they support entrepreneurs, innovators, and small businesses. So previously she was engaged in a venture capital firm PGVC and was one of the first co-creators of the Chicago Tech Incubator 1871, where she still serves as a mentor and supports like-minded nonprofit organizations in the Chicago tech ecosystem. Welcome, Kristi. And next we welcome Abigail Ingram, an inaugural director of the Women in Entrepreneurship Institute and faculty at DePaul University in Chicago, Illinois, and also an entrepreneur herself, practicing as an attorney. And beforehand, her first business was a music studio, and afterwards she was exploring sustainable business models for creative entrepreneurs. That sounds really interesting. And besides pioneering work within the Institute, she is also actively engaged in the Chicago innovation ecosystem, and I'm sure she'll tell us more later on. Welcome, Abigail. Our third panelist is Emilija Stojmenova Duh, an engineer and assistant professor at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, University of Ljubljana in Slovenia, where she is also the head of Public-Private People Partnership Digital Innovation Hub, where they aim to bridge the digital gap within societal and economic pillars. She also founded and is a national coordinator of the Fab Lab network in Slovenia, with establishing experimental and innovative makerspaces nationwide. So Emilija started her career in the private sector within a telecommunications company and has advanced to the academic and research world, where she leads her fast-growing team with a lean startup approach that allows them to develop their full potential. She's also an international expert in projects and initiatives with the European Union, Google, and United Nations, as well as many others, all in order to advance digitalization. And with her support in the field, she serves as a true role model for women and girls in STEM. Welcome, Emilija. Last but not least, we welcome Edita Krajnović, the CEO of Mediade company and a true change motivator. With her ambition and vision, she developed professionally as an expert in sales and management, while also exploring how to develop a culture of innovation, creativity, and talents. Always striving for innovation, she developed a methodology of the so-called Golden Thread Initiative that promotes the quality of workplace relations as a sign of business excellence, and is also engaged with the Slovenian Managers Association. On top of that, she co-founded the Let's Be Engineers initiative, where they support youth to decide for engineering careers for the past 9 years, soon to be 10. Welcome, Edita. So due to the times we are in, let's start off with women entrepreneurs, where we know that women face some additional challenges besides just strictly entrepreneurial ones. So my first question goes to you, Kristi. How do you support and encourage women entrepreneurs to take this road, especially in these uncertain times?
Yeah, so thank you. Can you hear me? I just want to be sure.
Yes.
Okay, good deal. So I think there's a lot of different ways that we can. Some may tie to our jobs, and some may be things that we can kind of do to support women entrepreneurs throughout, whether it be mentorships, which I think are really, really key for women in business in general, or if it's through like the programs that we're supporting. I know there's certain programs that we have, one being the Angel Tax Credit Program, which is $10 million each calendar year to incentivize investments in early stage innovative startups. And with that, we have a set aside of $500,000 that's only available for like women, minority-owned, or persons with disability-owned businesses. And in addition to that, I think targeted outreach really helps. So making sure that you're really you really have a concerted effort to fill the pipeline for these programs, rather than just kind of putting all the information out there and hoping that it sticks in the areas that you want it to. I think the other piece there is making sure that you're setting really lofty goals and you're tracking those metrics very regularly, because I think sometimes we know that we need to have women entrepreneurs in the pipeline. We know we need to support women entrepreneurs, but if you're not setting those goals along the way and seeing like where you're falling short so you can actually like push further, you kind of end up at the end of the day, you may have met your goal, but you didn't necessarily. So I think concerted efforts, and then things like making sure that our marketing materials are inclusive, that we have women and women of color, especially in a lot of these things, because it's kind of in order to be it, you want to be able to see it. So I think it helps, especially when we're talking younger girls. I think when they're able to see women who are in positions of power and women who are leaders and entrepreneurs, then I think it really changes their mindset as to what they think is possible there.
Great. So mentorship, community support, funding opportunities, setting goals, and role models. It's perfect. Maybe a follow-up question. Do you think there are some topics that women entrepreneurs cannot talk about, like let's say in front of an audience or at all, because it's sensitive for them? Do you have any experience with that?
I would say a few years ago, there might be a few things that I feel like may have been taboo to talk about. Now, I feel like now that, for lack of a better term, companies like CEED are being held to the fire here. It is important. You cannot stand back and not include women or minorities or any other community. So I think it's really important that they do kind of step in there. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. So basically, we definitely understand the importance of supporting women entrepreneurs, because as a matter of fact, we at CEED Slovenia, we just launched an Academy for Women Entrepreneurs Slovenia, which is actually a US supported program for women to advance economically worldwide. And we have a community of 50 women entrepreneurs dedicated to growth. So absolutely, we believe that every female entrepreneur needs her tribe. So thank you for your answer. And moving on to Abigail, with your vast entrepreneurial background and now having the chance to help support and develop other women entrepreneurs, how do you recognize the innovation potential in women entrepreneurs, let's say, or in students or alumni or other women entrepreneurs that apply to your program? And how do you help them? You see, because in Slovenia, where I'm coming from, the fact where I'm coming from, in Slovenia, we have a lot of innovation potential, but we are struggling to, let's say, bring it to the market. So where do you see your practices can help the Slovenian ecosystem?
Yeah, so thank you. First of all, it's wonderful to be here with this group of powerful women, and I miss Slovenia, so it's good to feel connected at least. Your first question was sort of about identifying women entrepreneurs that we can really help. And for us, it comes down to not only, are we a good fit, or are they a good fit for our program, but more, are we a good fit for them? The way that we offer our program is very time intensive. The application alone, I think, takes nearly an hour, and we're asking these really intense questions about their businesses, and business is personal when you are the founder. So we start off knowing that women who are ready to really put in the time and the work are going to self-select into our program, and then we make sure we know what they need. So if women are looking to, let's say they need commercial kitchen space because they've been baking in their kitchen. Well, we have other accelerators and incubators in Chicago that have commercial kitchen space. And so we're not going to be the best fit for that particular founder. So it's really about knowing what resources are available and making sure that the women that we're speaking to wouldn't be better served somewhere else. Now, our program is industry agnostic, so we help women in all kinds of different industries. And what we're really doing is helping them build the business acumen behind their business idea. So when we're being socialized from the time that we're very small, women are given fewer, not as a rule, but in general, we're given fewer leadership opportunities. We're given less exposure to business and to finance, just in the process of being socialized from the time that we're little girls. So when we look at how that translates into our abilities or our perceived abilities as adults, it becomes really important that we sort of backfill those experiences and those skills of being a leader and developing all of the knowledge and the skills that women need to run businesses. And for us, that really the heart of that is finance, because if the balance sheet isn't right, the company is going to fold. The company needs to be sustainable, or all of the good work that women are doing in the business world will go away. So as far as how we help them, I think that's the start of it. Kristi said, you know, mentorship and all of these pieces that are absolutely key. You know, when we launched the WEI, we wanted to start with a program working with women directly, and there's a ton of there's policy work and connections to funders, and there's a million pieces of this. So for us, it's about knowing what we can do well, which is training women who have existing businesses to make more money and create jobs. And so that's our focus. So I hope that, did I hit every part of your question with that?
Definitely work really hard to translate those practices to the Slovenian ecosystem. Thank you. And when we were, as I already mentioned, talking about the Slovenian innovation potential, Edita, you are one of the contributors to bring the Slovenian innovation potential to life, working with education and also managers. So what are the best practices in Slovenia in introducing and promoting women in STEM? So as experts, as engineers, or also as business owners? And how does that reflect to, let's say, younger generations that decide on their career steps? Where do you see that the inspiration comes from?
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me to Gaya College and US Embassy. And then thank you for your question, because let me point to Emilija, and then referring to Mary Wells from Ontario University. On her insight, where she says one of the many reasons why women are underrepresented, or girls are underrepresented in the tech sector or in business, engineering in disciplines such as software, mechanical, electrical, computer and mechatronics engineering, is because we have done a terrible job in conveying what engineers do great, good for the societies. And picking up upon what Abigail and Kristi were telling, I really believe in the role model, in inspiration. If you can see somebody in being enough close to you, giving you an example. And Emilija is one of these people. She was a role model in the first year of the contest Female Engineer of the Year, which we constructed and designed in Slovenia to convey to young people, to youth, you know, this could be your life, you know. So Emilija is the role model of what we are striving for. Today, our Teja Primožić is a part of this gathering. She's a student of computer science, and she motivates another young students and undergraduates to follow the suit, you know. So this is the idea, how to inspire young people to follow this path. So that would be my comment.
Lead by example.
Exactly. Yeah. This is my strongest belief, because I have this, you know, I was raised in business environment. I also studied at Indiana University School of Business at Bloomington, you know, and this is this, and I must say, I'm enjoying listening to Kristi and Abigail. It's kind of, it's my other part of life, American part of life. I really enjoy this talk today. And this is what makes people happy, you know, what they can pursue and realize in their lives. So I'm sure that Emilija will pick upon that and add to my comment.
Definitely. You actually stole my line. as I wanted to introduce Emilija as one of the finalists in the first Let's Be the Best Female Engineer of the Year, and also serving as a role model still to date, and a big advocate on women engineers. But Emilija, on the other hand, in Slovenia, we have more women enrolled in PhD programs, but in the end, only 20% out of that, let's say, women pursue careers as scientists, engineers, or STEM experts. So what do you think is the change factor here? Is it the lack of career opportunities, or maybe, let's say, Edita mentioned the stereotypes, or we have dual standards for employing and advancing careers of male and female experts, or just personal fear of failing this work-life balance, when we start a family. So where do you think we fail, and where do you think we are good?
Thanks a lot, Tjaša. So, Ditka, thank you so much. I almost started crying, so please don't do that. We are live. Thanks a lot for your nice words. Tjaša, you mentioned it all. So I'm also IBLP alumni. I was part of Hidden No More 2018, and I met a lot of amazing women all around the world. So what did we found out? There are three major problems with women in science, or with women in STEM. And these three are imposter syndrome. So we don't believe that we can be successful, that we are capable of doing good things. We are not so much confident, and even that people in the States say this is also true for them, but trust me, here in Europe, and especially in Slovenia, we have major difficulties with the imposter syndrome. Then another thing is, of course, this career personal life balance, because especially, Tjaša, you mentioned that there are many women that have PhD, but then they do not stay in the field. This is also somehow related to the time of your life when you're doing your PhD. So when you finish with your PhD, usually you would like to have a family, you're starting a family. This means that it's not so easy to fulfill all the conditions to stay in the field as well. So many of these women, when they go out, they never can come back. And also it is very difficult to proceed in the career as well, because there are some of the conditions, for example, for us to proceed on a better place at the university, you need to go out and then stay there for some time. And for example, for people like me, I have a young son, I cannot leave it on his own at home. So I cannot fulfill this condition. And then this glass ceiling, of course, because it seems that you can achieve everything, but no, not really, because in the leadership positions, usually you have men there who I should not say that they're doing this intentionally. Many times it's not intentional, but they are just not aware what they're doing. So they're not looking with our eyes on the problem itself. And if you don't have leaders, female leaders, then of course you cannot provide leadership positions for other women as well. So I think this is the major problem. It's definitely not because women are not capable. And for sure, I can tell you at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, we have very few, but very successful female. This is not only at our university, but also at other universities in the country. And there are also many other women, but simply there are so many systematically unsolved things that are burden for the women in the field.
And you already mentioned the Hidden No More program, the IVLP initiative. So you said that you recognize the let's say what you have in common as the negative side of the, let's say being an engineer or a scientist. But did you also get to see any good practices that maybe we can incorporate in our, let's say, or education system, or in our, let's say, career development for a female expert in the STEM field? Because you this is the program where you experience not only the US perspective, but also the perspective of how big was the cohort?
Yeah, we were 50 women from all around the world.
So 49 other countries and cultures involved in the program to get, and plus the US experience while visiting all these organizations and ecosystems. So what did you, let's say, what are the positive sides that you brought back, or how did it change your, let's say, perspective?
Most of the things were positive. Even these things I was mentioning are very positive as well. So the best part, the best thing from the program is that I learned my lesson, that you always need to ask, because the worst thing that can happen to you is that you have no for an answer. And previously, I was always not confident. I was shy. I was like, what will they think about me? And so on and so on. And then after these 3 weeks, when I was there and when I was talking to all these women, and when I saw that they have the same challenges, and the program was very good because we had very good mentors. So they really trained us. You can always ask, nothing will happen there. And if you think you deserve something, then go for it. And don't let that others are behaving you less than you deserve to. So I think for me, it was a life changer. I always say that. Previously, I didn't have a permanent job. So I was very successful at my job, and I was receiving a lot of projects. I was coordinating a lot of projects, but I had a job for every year. And when I came back, the first thing when I went to my boss and I said, I want a permanent job, otherwise I will go away. And he said, yes. And it was as easy as that. So for me, this program was really a life changer. And then I also started working a lot with my students as well, teaching them this, and then showing them examples from the United States or from, I don't know, Portugal, from Norway, and so on, and telling them you can have, there are women like us all around. So we can do everything what we want to.
Yeah, I think that's a very common thing, you know, not asking questions in Slovenia. I remember because I was also in some entrepreneurship fellowship programs in the US. And I remember when these mentors came back to Slovenia, they are, everybody is very surprised how we do not ask questions, you know. So this, I share this view with you, and definitely it was also one of my personal takes from the US. So I think it's we have to serve as advocates, you know, by, as Edita said before, serving by example. So thank you for these insights in this first round. Definitely a topic that we will develop further. And I would like to turn now to our audience. So we prepared a question for you. And I would like to ask Anna Maria to start the poll, where we will see what you think of and what do you think about the opportunities for women in STEM. So you already see the question, and please answer it. It will be open for, let's say, a few minutes. And okay, so while we wait for answers, I would continue with Abigail and Kristi. You are both also mentors, as you mentioned in the first part of the conversation, with various organizations such as, let's say, also World Chicago, where we all got to know each other. So you also mentored there, not only, let's say, the US entrepreneurs, but also European startup entrepreneurs and innovation leaders. What similarities or differences did you see between the founders you worked with, you know, within your, let's say, institute or your department, and let's say the European experience? Do you feel that we could learn from each other, and in what way?
I'm sure we both have a ton to say on this. Go ahead, Kristi. Yeah.
I think I would echo what you mentioned earlier first, as far as speaking up and asking questions. I definitely noticed that in the room whenever we would have talks, and then it was open to any questions, and there wouldn't be any, which I don't think there's a like right or wrong piece there, but I think that when we want to take ownership of how we guide our own journey, I think it is helpful, as Emilija stated, that we do know that we can ask any question, and the worst thing is that we're told no. I think the other piece too is I notice sometimes in business when I feel like I'm going to ask a question, and especially if it's a higher level executive male who I feel like is going to tell me no anyways, then I'll just do more work on the back end to just present it and say, so rather than asking for permission, more so asking for forgiveness like after I've kind of done it. So I think there's certain ways there, and that's not to say that like the American way is the right way and so on and so forth, but I think there is a lot to be learned there. I also felt in general more equality and almost like respect of women in Europe than I do here. And that's not to say that I don't think people respect women here. There's an underlying sense of that there's more equality, although it might not, and that comes out in conversations, although it might not shake out in what we see in business. I definitely noticed that, and I appreciated being there for a week in Croatia, feeling that way too. So that was just my take.
Yeah, great. Abigail?
Yeah, so I think on the international or on the individual business level, what people in the US need to learn from Slovenia is that there has to be sort of an international lens to your business from the very beginning. So because our markets are so huge, we tend to start with, well, who can I sell this to in the States? And we don't look outside of it. We think the market is the US, and so the products we build are for the US. In Slovenia, it was immediately clear that students were developing tech products because they are more easy to export than any other type of product, and that they were looking at their European neighbors and even globally from the very beginning, which I think is just absolutely key as we transition from, just into a global economy. That's where we are. So it's something that I try to bring to my students because of my amazing experience at GIA College and elsewhere in Slovenia. So that's the individual business level. On an ecosystem perspective, what I think the US needs to learn is the overwhelming support for entrepreneurial endeavors that's available across the EU, really. I was touring one of your, I don't remember if it was an accelerator or an incubator, but I remember the conversation, and we were talking about all of the services that they provide for entrepreneurs, people who are just starting up, for people who had young businesses who were even pre-revenue. And because I'm rude and American, I asked what their operating budget was. And they told me, and it was like mind blown. This wonderful place was being supported by the government for the purpose of fostering innovation in Slovenia. In the US, we tend to rely on private philanthropy, and there are amazing grants and opportunities available from the state and from our federal government. But for the most part, a lot of the support dollars are going to come from individual donors or from family foundations. So I think the more we can do to garner government support for young entrepreneurs and innovators, the better, the more like Slovenia, the better off we will truly be. Mm-hmm. From the US perspective, I think the benefit we have is that we have the whole cliche of like fail fast. So get it wrong and then try again. So I think it would be probably great, and here I'm being prescriptive, so forgive me, but it would probably be great to have those entrepreneurs in Slovenia who tried something, failed, and then were successful, maybe fail louder so that everybody else can see that there's going to be another chance to try again.
Yeah, I like that, fail louder, and we also at CEED, we have this sharing environment, where it's okay to bring your problems and failures to the table. So we're already targeting to that direction. And speaking of these opportunities, there's a very interesting program opened right now for European entrepreneurs. It's called Young Transatlantic Innovation Leaders Initiative, YTILI, and it's also an US State Department flagship program for European entrepreneurs from 45 countries that are interested in growth and scaling to global markets and building networks within the US and, of course, Europe. So applications are open until March 1st. Hurry up. And you can get more information with CEED Slovenia, as well as GEA College, or even our US Embassy in Ljubljana. We can all support you in this. And Anna Maria will give you the website link to the chat. Okay, and we have a first question from the audience, from Urshka. So she is asking, how much did COVID situation affected women roles in a leadership position? Does it show already staying at home, homeschooling? So who wants to go first? Maybe the Slovenian perspective, Edita?
Yeah, hi. I'm economist, so I really rely on figures. So yes, Emilija will probably support that. Women in science were backed up by COVID because they had to take care. Emilija has her own story, so the evidence shows that women scientists, female scientists, were a sort of, I would not use the word victim, but they were backed up by COVID. So the statistics shows that they had less results during the COVID. So let Emilija add to that evidence.
Thanks a lot. So in our case, for me, it was very difficult because we work with digitalization. So when COVID came, even the people who didn't think that they need us, everybody needed us. And we were basically working 20 hours per day at the beginning. So my son, he's 6 now, so he's first grade of school. But when everything started, he was in the kindergarten. And you cannot just tell him, go and watch television for a whole day long because I don't have time for you. So we had to balance the things. And my husband is very, very supportive. And I always say he's the true feminist in our family because he's always very supportive of my career and of my job and everything. But it's the kid that needs the mom. So it's not only about that the men are the ones who are not helping. They are, but many times the children just want to be there for them. So in my case, I must say that it wasn't showed at the results because last year was one of our most successful years as a whole. But I must also say that it was because of the whole team. And it was also because I am the leader of my team, and then I understand that people sometimes cannot be there for you. So no problem at all. We are very flexible in the tasks and everything. But it was very, very stressful. And if we would like to see both perspectives, so how successful are you at your job, but then also the stress level, it was very difficult. For me, also when the children were at home, so first year of school and homeschooling, this was nightmare. I cannot imagine something like that. And I hope that I will never, ever need to go through that anymore. Because you need to teach your children, you need to teach your students, you need to work on your projects. And I agree, in most of the cases, it was really the women. And there, again, as Ditka was explaining, I'm not speaking this out of the blue, but there were surveys as well that were done. And in most of the cases, it was the women who the hardest burden was on them during this situation, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was actually a data from US-based research that 1 in 4 women are considering downshifting their careers or leaving the workforce entirely because of the impact of COVID-19. And this report was presented, I think, in end of October, late October, and it was for the US. So Kristi and Abigail, what are your experiences, because you are working directly with women entrepreneurs and women experts in STEM. Maybe
So
this
I'll
time,
add
Kristi, you
on.
can. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh, I'll be quick because I think Kristi's going to have some great things on the policy and the state side to share on this. But since we're still talking about the problem, and many of you might have seen that the U.S. lost 140,000 jobs in December, and 100% of those jobs had been held by women. So we are not in. This is not a drill. The theater is on fire. Pick your cliche. This is a problem. So. When it comes to the research side, which my Slovenian now colleagues here were sharing, research time is reduced for women by about 2 hours per day since this started. For scientists, for social science research, all of that. So what can we do about it? Well, it's time for employers to step in and find out what their employees need to stay in the workforce, because we are going to shift the entire face of business if we don't get this figured out in the next, like right now. I'm anticipating a spike in women's entrepreneurship that comes as a result of this because of the flexibility that entrepreneurship can allow for women. I'm just like full of cliches today, so I'm just going to keep going with it. So an entrepreneur is the only person who will work 80 hours a week for themselves to avoid working 40 hours for someone else. So I anticipate we are going to see a big increase in women starting their own businesses for that very reason.
Great. Kristi?
Yeah, I agree. And there was actually a study, it was American Express, did a study from 2014 to 2019, and it showed that the women entrepreneurs starting their own businesses was increasing by 21% there, and it was actually 43%, I believe, for women of color. And so I think we've already been seeing this shift, and I think COVID-19 just exacerbated like where this is going. So I think there's a lot of necessity entrepreneurs. There's a lot of flexibility entrepreneurs that we're going to see here that are coming out of this. Some may have been laid off, and it's kind of a sink or swim moment for people. And then the other piece is, to your point, I mean, with remote learning, I don't have children myself, but I can only imagine how much of an undertaking that would have been to juggle everything with just working from home and everything being in your own living room, your office being in your own bedroom or living room or anywhere else. So I think I do see a spike coming here. I also would bet on women entrepreneurs all day, every day, because I think it is ingrained in us to multitask and prioritize. And because we have to multitask, learn how to better prioritize different things here. And so I think when it comes to starting businesses and businesses that are successful being based off of true need, some businesses that are based off of wants do well as well, but typically the businesses that are doing extremely well are those that are based off of real need. And I think women knowing how to prioritize like what the need is and what the want is in every bit of the day really helps in standing up those businesses, but also operating those businesses going forward. And so I think this is going to be a huge shift, and I think we're going to see a lot more women entrepreneurs moving forward here, and it's a game changer. This whole pandemic has been a game changer across the board.
Great, thank you for this. And I would suggest we now check the results of the poll if we have them. Okay, so the question was, do you think women in STEM and women entrepreneurs have less opportunities for a career development? And 2/3 said yes, and 1/3 said no. Maybe comment. Emilija, would you like to start? What do you think about it?
The first thing I wanted to see is how many of the participants are female and how many of them are male. This relation would be very good to know. I somehow agree because I really liked what Kristi said at the beginning. In order to be it, you must be able to see it. And this is exactly what is happening in Slovenia in the later years now. Because when I started studying at university, I was studying electrical engineering. You can imagine that there were no many women around me. There were no teachers, there were no entrepreneurs, anything else. So it was me, and I was an alien there. And now I'm not an alien anymore. I'm just another person that is working at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, that is interested in digital technologies. And because of that, you can see many female students are joining, and then there's so many amazing projects like what Edita is doing with Let's Be Engineers. So this project has its 10th anniversary this year, and I think that now we can see the results after that, because when you have these role models, then children, they start and they say, I want to be like her, and then they go and study that. So at the time being in Slovenia, we are there. So I can see that these results are very reliable. Also for me, I agree with the results. I said no, because I think that nowadays, if you really try hard, maybe you should work 2 times harder than your male colleagues. But if you're really interested, if you're motivated, then there is no problem that you're a female, that you will be successful. And I must agree here that maybe if we compare the United States and then Europe, the European Union is doing a lot of effort on this. And also now with this president of the European Commission, she's very much interested into gender balance. And there's so many initiatives when they're taking care of this. So I must say that I was expecting this kind of results.
Okay, and just before we continue with commenting the poll, there was a comment from Angelina, maybe add up to this. As a woman in STEM, I think that the opportunities are the same. Nobody or nothing is stopping us. The difference is in the aspirations, personal beliefs and values, which I believe often differ between man and a woman, which in turn comes mostly from the way we are raised. So maybe that's on top of it, and comment on the poll. I don't know, Kristi, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think again, this goes back to, like, to be able to be it, you have to see it. But I also think that there's a lot in here too that is tied to more of unconscious bias, and being sure that, you know, it's very important. Women All Day can stand up for women all day in business. It's so important that we have allies, that we have male allies who are helping to push these initiatives forward, and that we all do it together. I think that's the big piece here. And so I know it was mentioned earlier, it's not always intentional that certain decisions are made, or that someone may act a certain way towards others. It's a lot of it's based on unconscious bias. And I think bringing more light to unconscious bias so that people understand what it is and people can try to be mindful of it, I think that's really important, in addition to us taking ownership of our own actions here. And this actually reminds me of one of my favorite events that we stood up at 1871 years back, but we had an event for girls in STEM, and the panel included a young student who, she was 10 or 11 years old. There was a teacher on the panel, there was a female entrepreneur on the panel, and there was a parent up there too. And I think this, like, holistic approach to having these conversations is so key. And the audience was full of parents who came with their girls. And so it was really awesome to see, just their reaction to the conversations that were being had, B, that a conversation was being had between all of these different parties here about how we push forward women in STEM, but, like, see that those conversations, since they showed up with their parents, they're going home and continuing those conversations with their parents. and their parents are actively being mindful of what they are presenting to their young girls and what opportunities, and even just the tone and how you mention opportunities to young girls is so important. If there's an underlying tone that this is not attainable, but it's attainable for guys, I mean, it just, all of that snowballs, and then you become 35 years old and you're trying to like overcome a bunch of different things, right?
Yeah,
I,
I
really
absolutely agree. I absolutely agree, because, you know, many times talents are like, young talents are discovered, let's say in schools or in education environment, but are not supported to further develop it, you know, from, as you mentioned, from parents or caregivers. So basically, this was a very good aspect that you also included parents in the conversation, you know, and that these conversations continued later on at home. So maybe Edita, can you also give a comment on this situation that we have, the polling situation?
Thank you very much, Tjaša. I really was intrigued by a comment by Angelina and Nicole's comment on that. I agree with you, Angelina. If I may be, as Kristi or Abigail mentioned, in American way, a bit direct. I think it's kind of romantic view. Let me tell you from my own experience. I started my career in academic environment in corporate finance department of the University of Economics. It was the finest environment. I had my career path paved from PhD on. Perfect. My experience, no discrimination. We have all the opportunities. But if we take a look at the statistics, World Economic Forum research shows it will take 100 years to reach a balance in gender equality. We cannot deny that. It's reality. So we cannot be this romantic and maybe arrogant to think it's just up to me. I went through the episode in Slovenia about the women quotes. It was suggested by European Commissioner Reding to set up quotes. And I was listening to my colleagues in management. No, I'm not pro quotes. Why? Because it would mean I only accomplished my position because it was because of quotes. But nevertheless, sooner or later, they realize it's the way to pave the equality in the society. Let me tell you the story of a student of graduate school in Celje, high school in Slovenia. We had this event, Emilija participated, few of them. After the event, promoting STEM studies, she would write a letter to me and she would say, I was excited about the mechanical engineering. I really like physics, mathematics, and I really enjoyed this. And I listened to the managerial positions, but I asked myself, I'm a girl, so I think they wouldn't take me seriously. And I think it's not the right career path for me because I'm a girl. And this Katya, you know, she actually expressed what her obstacles are. Other girls don't even say or think about it. They just follow suit. So Anna Maria or Angelina, Nicole, we should not be romantic about that. We should take into account the figures. One more statistic. Slovenia in Europe is the best in number of female graduates in STEM studies, but it's 20 graduates, female graduates in 1,000. So we can parallel it with COVID-19. One country can be better and could do better than another. Europe can do better than America. Or Australia can do better than Europe and America together. But the challenge is still global, and we cannot deny that. So that would be my statement. It's still not okay. Okay? So that I'm sure that you will pick upon that, but we cannot be romantic about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Edita. Maybe Abigail, would you like to add to this?
Can I make a confession?
Of course.
I didn't really know how to answer your poll because my answer is simultaneously, of course it's harder. Have you seen the data? And also, hell no. And I think those are both true at the same time, because I want to live in a world where there aren't obstacles, and I want to pretend like they aren't there because I've seen what people can do before they know it's hard. And it's amazing. So that's my confession. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for sharing.
Catholic, obviously. Hey, what we're taught to aspire to impacts us for life, or it stops impacting us at a certain point. So if we're going to talk about, you know, being kids and all of that, and little boys getting blocks, and it's about what they can build, and little girls getting dolls, and about how well they can care, what kind of caregiver they're being taught to be. I mean, we can talk about that if we want to. I think it's just important for us to realize that even if that was our experience, or for younger people who are watching this right now, maybe it wasn't. Maybe your parents didn't feel the need to have gender specific toys. Maybe you don't care about the impact of gender specific toys. Point is, at some point we can choose to look back on how we've been socialized and undo the teaching. We can decide that, you know, I'm just going to go for what I'm going to go for. And I think that's one part of the magic of conversations like the one we're having right now, is that we have this choice to let go of those obstacles that we've created for ourselves. There are enough obstacles out there. The data shows it. But if we're creating our own, like, there it is the problem. Let's not do that. So if you are a woman and you believe that it is not going to be harder for you, go get it. I'm totally fine with you believing that. I think you should absolutely go for it. And when you run into those obstacles, like anyone is, whether they're a woman or a man, non-binary, Black, Indigenous, person of color, everybody is going to run into obstacles in their life when they're going after paths in the fields that we're discussing. So let's take them one by one and just crush it.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, it's, you know, once you detect it, it's already, you know, easier to, it's already more solvable, or how to say, once you are aware of, let's say, what's the obstacle or what's the stereotype, even like within you, you know, because we all carry stereotypes. It's easier to break it once you detect it within you or externally. Okay, thank you for this excellent insight. I feel that this conversation could go on at least for hours, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So I would ask each of you to just maybe share a very brief key message that you would give to the audience listening. So key message for all future young female leaders, managers, engineers, experts in STEM field. What would be your key takeaway from today's session? And please be brief in, let's say, in one sentence. So maybe starting with Emilija.
I was hoping, please not me first, please not me first, and you didn't listen. Yes, it was very interesting discussion, and I so much agree with all of you, but my key point here is definitely be confident and dare to ask questions, because as I said, the worst thing that might happen to you is that someone says no, and then you can still ask somebody else. So just dare to ask questions and be confident that you can do whatever you would like to.
Thank you. Kristi?
Yeah, I would say it is very, very important that we acknowledge that there are many challenges that women in business do face, and I in no way am trying to say that there aren't. But I think one of the first piece about doing better with this is acknowledging that it exists, and being able to openly talk about it and move forward holistically with all allies to overcome those processes. So I would just say to everyone who is interested in entrepreneurship and trying to push along, the sky is the limit. You can do anything. There may be challenges along the way. Actually, there will be challenges along the way, but keep at it.
Thank you. Maybe Abigail?
Sure. My advice is just form as many relationships as you possibly can, whether it's a mentor or people in your field, because that really is where you're going to do the most learning. And just don't stop learning. I got a great piece of advice a few years ago, and it was, don't waste your youth on Netflix. So learn as much as you can, dive in and just get it. And good luck.
Thank you. And Edita?
Emilija mentioned self-confidence. I shared with you the link to Slovenian Quizum. It's also in English, so it's global. And I firmly believe, and there is plenty of evidence, that Slovenia is a cradle of innovators, engineers, and pioneers. Just the world does not know it yet. And I think it's an inspiration to girls and boys to really realize what they're gifted for. And there are three things that they should consider: what I love doing, what I enjoy doing, what I'm good at, and what the society needs. And the intersection of these three will make a pretty sure probability that people will be happy in their lives.
Great. Thank you very much to all your answers and let's say advice for future women in STEM experts or entrepreneurs. So just my brief wrap up will be: ask questions, be confident, fail louder and get up, acknowledge that the gap exists and talk to all allies. Don't worry, because the sky is the limit, and don't stop learning, and check the intersection between what you enjoy, what you're good at, and what the society needs. So thank you very much for this panel. I'm really privileged to be hosting it, moderating it. And now I'm giving the last few words to Anna Maria to give you some pointers.
Thank you so much, Tjaša. And of course, firstly, we are sincerely in deep gratitude, and it is, of course, our privilege to be hosting 4 amazing guest panelists. So thank you, Kristi, thank you, Abigail, thank you, Emilija, and thank you, Edita. It was a great privilege and honor to listen to you. It was a great panel. I was personally really inspired, so I hope that all the participants can share also these feelings. I can see a lot of thank you messages in chat, so here is a confirmation. And of course, thank you, Tjaša, for such a great moderation. And of course, it was a great panel, great topics, a lot of great, ideas and inspiration. And of course, as you have said before, just learn, dive in, and just get it. So this is also a final thought. And of course, thank you again for all attending us. And of course, you're all invited for our next webinar. We're going to dive into digitalization. So please apply if you haven't yet. And of course, we will see each other again next Tuesday, same time, same place. And this was all for today. So thank you very much, and have a good evening, Slovenians, and have a good day to our American guest speakers and colleagues. Thank you. It was a privilege. Bye-bye.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you.